The juries remind that they may not ask questions on a topic that has already been covered or that has not been present. These questions must be addressed during the question period at the end of the presentation. The last 2 minutes of the presentation are used to conclude the presentation and are free from questions from the judges. If your presentation is less than 20 minutes long, a penalty of 1 point will be deducted for every 30 seconds. If your presentation is less than 12 minutes long, your team will be aware a score of 0 overall for that presentation. If after 24 minutes you have not completed the presentation, you will be stopped to proceed to the question period. At the end of the presentation, the judges will have a question period of a maximum of 5 minutes. I recommend the jury that it is mandatory to ask a question during this period. If at the end of the 5 minutes you have not finished answering the question, you will be stopped. During the presentation, I will indicate the time remaining with 12 minutes, 7 minutes, 2 minutes, and 30 seconds will be left with the card, and the last 10 seconds with my finger. A clock will also show you the remaining presentation time continuously. The judges will be notified of the start and the end of the unpredicted period by means of the I remind you that under your circumstances, may you mention the origin of your investee, otherwise you will be penalized. I also remind the audience that it is strictly forbidden to use any electronic device during the presentation, and you are requested to remain silent until the very end of the question period. Before we begin, I'm going to ask the room to turn off their cell phone and put them on a silent mode so as not to interrupt the presentation. I will now ask the judges to introduce themselves, and then we can begin the presentation.
Hi, I'm Theodora Tuteva, Project Director, West Coast for Montreal International.
Marika Tassoni, Project Manager for the Asia Pacific team and the Eurospace team.
Aurelia Drand, Associate Professor here at HEC Montreal.
I'm Renaud Beauchamp. I'm Vice President for Labatt Sales in Quebec.
Hi, I'm James Rodrigo. I'm a Management Consultant at PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Il y a 4 ans, j'ai émigré à Montréal. Je suis venu ici pour faire mes études. Et je dois vous avouer que je m'attendais à une vie bouillante, une vie étudiante pleine et beaucoup d'apprentissage. Mais je ne m'attendais pas à avoir une ville autant innovative. Une ville avec autant d'activités, une ville qui a réussi à me transmettre cette passion et qui aujourd'hui me pousse à rester ici et à continuer ma vie ici. Aujourd'hui, Montréal International est là pour transmettre un rêve, pour transmettre une ville, pour montrer que Montréal a plus que des avantages économiques, mais culturels, un vrai hub. Et nous sommes aujourd'hui là pour vous aider à transmettre cette passion à ces entreprises et pour leur faire comprendre que c'est à Montréal qu'elles doivent investir. Je suis accompagné de mes collègues Dixon et Maya. Nous sommes l'équipe G du consulting. Notre présentation se déroulera en anglais, mais ne vous inquiétez pas, je m'assurerai de garder l'accent français tout le long de la présentation. So let's jump right into it. What are we going to look at today? Right. Let's jump right into it. Today, first, we're going to look at our ambition. Where is your company right now, and where do you want to be in the next 5 years? What kind of goals did the Montreal City and government give you? Now we want to look at where to play, what kind of business units do you want to use, what kind of countries you want to attract investments from, and finally how to win. What kind of strategy are you going to set in place, and what kind of factors in your company you're going to use, what kind of assets you're going to leverage. And finally, all of that needs to be backed up by strong implementation and financials so that it makes sense for your company.
So now we're going to go ahead with the ambitions. This is really, again, where you are and what you're looking to achieve in the upcoming years. So to start off with Montreal International's current landscape. So a few important KPIs that should be noted before we get started with the presentation are that 50% of the investments are from Europe and 45% from America. In addition, there's 2.5 billion FDIs which were received in 2018, and this led to 6,500 jobs created again in that same year. So we see that there is a growing area for the FDI, specifically here in Montreal. And then moving on to the city of Montreal's overall profile. So Montreal is, of course, a very large hub for many different sectors, including in particular AI, which we're going to dive more into throughout our presentation. Additionally, as many of us are aware, it's a very multicultural city, bringing people from very diverse backgrounds and overall creating a very diverse city to live in with lots of different opportunities. And lastly, being we are all students, we must note that it's of course a great a city for students to live in, with many great universities and colleges throughout the city. So we wanted to identify 3 key goals that Montreal International should consider going forward. So first of all, as mentioned, they would like to double their FDIs within the next 5 years. So we do want to take note that this is a fairly limited time frame that we have, just 5 years, so our strategy is considering that. And that also the team working for Montreal International is relatively small. Our second goal is to reach the $5 billion mark in capital investment by 2024. And so this is set by the provincial government and can add pressure onto our strategy.
What's the difference between goal 1 and 2?
I think it's protected.
Oh, it's protected, sorry.
And then lastly, Montreal International would like to pursue a very aggressive strategic plan. So this is very important when deciding what we're going to do moving forward, because we believe that it's necessary to have a very targeted and specific plan to follow over the 5 years. So now moving on to where to play. So we performed an industry analysis of the city of Montreal in 6 of its main segments. So AI, VFX, video games, cybersecurity, fintech, and aerospace and defense. And we've listed many of the companies that are currently located here in Montreal that have their operations. And we noticed that within AI, VFX, and video games are where many of the big players reside. And so we think that moving forward, this is the industry that we're really going to have to capitalize on in order to achieve our goals in terms of the FDIs. So here we decided to compare the industries, the 6 industries that we had mentioned, and then also the major cities in North America and Europe that could compete for international FDIs. So we've included the following cities: Montreal, Toronto, San Francisco, New York, Paris, and Seattle. So I won't run through all of the results for each category, but overall, Montreal and San Francisco were the 2 that really stood out, whereas the other cities kind of focused mainly on a specific industry, for example, Toronto and fintech, or New York, whereas we saw the profit here in Montreal, they can really capture all of the segments very well. And then after doing this analysis, we also noted that already 46% of Montreal's inward FDIs are within the software and IT industry. And so at first, it could be asked, why would you want to then continue to pursue this industry when it's already doing so well? And we think that in this day and age, it is something that's continuing to strive. So it's really important that we capitalize on the success that we already have moving forward, and that plenty of opportunities are going to open up within the future that we can then continue pursuing. And next up, we wanted to evaluate Montreal City in comparison to the other cities that we had mentioned, because one of the main issues is how are we going to attract the foreign direct investment in Montreal versus these other major cities. And so we first decided to evaluate the quality of life versus the cost of living. And this is one of the key success factors here for Montreal for attracting companies and investment. So of course it has great quality of life, but also the cost of living is quite low, and this is very important for purchasing space for offices, given that the rent is much cheaper compared to, say, Toronto, San Francisco, New York, or Paris. And then we next evaluated again the cost of living and employability. And here we were able to note that Montreal, again, here has a low cost of living, but also fairly low employability compared to the other 5 cities.
So now that we identified where we want to play in terms of industries, we realized that AI, VFX, and tech are industries where Montreal is well known, doing very well, and has a competitive advantage over other cities. We want to see which countries match these criteria. Which countries have strong players in this industry and which countries are big enough to invest in Montreal, such as we will reach this goal of 5 billion investments by 2025. So let's read out some of those countries. We have the countries that you mentioned, so we have Brazil, Mexico, we have Poland, Italy, Spain, India, China, Russia, and Turkey. Let's see some of the criteria that we came up with. One, we want to make sure that they have good political relations with Canada. That leads us to weed out mainly Russia and China for current risk. We don't want to make enemies of the United States. So we eliminate Russia and China. Then, what do we have? We want currency stability. What will happen if Turkey starts investing in Montreal and the currency drops suddenly? The investments will cost 2, 3, 4 times more than usually, and we can't really rely on those countries. Especially, they're not really that big in terms of tax. So we don't think Turkey is a country we need to consider. Next criteria is we want countries that have large established companies. Spain, Italy, Poland, yes, they have some big companies. Poland is growing in tech. It's a booming industry there. But most of their companies are at the startup level. Are they going to make significant investments in Montreal in the next 5 years? We don't think so. And next, we want industry fit. So as we said, we want countries that have strong tech sectors. Italy, Spain are not really known for these strong tech sectors. Is Mexico? Not that much. Brazil, neither. So we weed them out, and we end up with India. India is a country with 1.5 billion people, and one of the biggest tech hubs in terms of talents, in terms of unicorns, big, small companies. If we are looking into tech, Canada and Montreal is ideal for India to invest in. So now India has 13% of the world FDIs. They invest a lot in other countries. They invest as much as 63,000 million each year. And in terms of software and IT services, is one of the biggest industries, where 10% of their foreign investment go each year. In terms of companies, we have very big giants of the industry. We have Oracle, we have Infosys, we have Tata, consultancy services. And in terms of unicorns, we have smaller companies, which we have some political instability right now going on in India. And the first move, they need to find another country where they have more stability. And Montreal could be ideal. Low cost, great hub in terms of tech. They can learn the best practices there. So it makes sense to attract both of these companies because they will both be looking for what we have, and we are looking for them to come into Montreal. So now let's look at how to win, our strategy. Now that we know that we want to deal with India, then we want to attract mainly tech companies. How are we going to do? How are we going to use Montreal International's capabilities to do that? So we came up with an MTL strategy. First, we want to create a team that's going to accommodate for the new synergies. We want to create, if we want to deal with India, we need a team that knows India. We need a team that knows those companies. We need a team that will reach out to them. It's 1.3 billion people. If we're using around 11 people to have 50% of our investment from Europe, we need to build a team that is pretty much as big to deal with in India. 2, we want to tackle investors' main concerns. One of the hard things that we are going through is competing with Toronto. Why? Well, Toronto is much more notorious, of course, but the main thing that investors are scared of is the French language. It is a huge barrier. And Montreal International needs to act, needs to take that needle out of its foot as soon as it can. Obviously, we have limited capabilities, but we believe that there are some things that a company could do to fix that issue. And finally, we want to leverage synergies between and within clusters. Attracting a lot of tech companies is very nice. They're all in Montreal, but what do we do for them to interact? Why would an Indian company want to come to Montreal? They want to learn the best practices. How do we allow them to learn the best practices? By creating a link between them. And finally, good. We have very good AI in Montreal, with a lot of investments. But that profits to all the companies, not only AI companies. That profits to aerospace and defense. They're looking into VR. It's the main thing that they're looking at today to train the troops. We need to make sure that the clusters not only interact within them, but between them. And that's the last part of our strategy. So now I will leave with Dixon to introduce a little bit further into this strategy.
Yeah, so I'll walk you through a more high level of what our strategy entails. So starting off with the end part of our MTL strategy, make a team to facilitate this growth that Montreal International is looking towards in the next 5 years. So what we intend to do for this objective is to hire more full-time employees to accommodate this kind of growth with right fit and experience.
How many?
Yes, so we are planning to hire 3 more employees for the Asian sector, and I'll dive into more of that later. And the impact of hiring more full-time employees is obviously preventing a work overload for the current employees and really distributing the work among the workforce and really maintaining that high productivity for that Indian engagement and engaging with those huge Indian companies. Moving on to the second part of our strategy, T, taking investors their main concern of the language barrier. And to tackle this, we suggest emphasizing success stories of Montreal International, your past success stories of bringing immigrants in and foreign companies in and how they have integrated into the Montreal community. And really emphasizing the access to government resources and services that you provide as well. And the impact of this action is that you'll be able to help foreign companies realize that doing business in Montreal doesn't have to be hard. Doing business in Montreal is easy with the right resources and the right help. Finally, the last part of our MTL strategy, leveraging synergies within industries and between industries. And what this entails is creating spaces, physical spaces and intangible spaces to create networks and connections, not only within different companies within AI, for example, but also from AI to aerospace and defense, for example. And what we can expect to result from this is facilitating intercompany interaction for more business activities, and that's where the synergies come from. That's where the synergies are coming from. Industry to industry and company to company.
So you mean that Montreal International should create kind of soft landing spaces for the companies, and it would be under the care of Montreal International?
Not necessarily leasing physical spaces, but more so hosting events and times at which they can meet each other.
Okay.
Yeah, so to talk more about making a team to accommodate new initiatives, we took a look at your organizational structure, more particularly the Asian sector, as we are focusing on India. Here we have your current organizational structure for Asia. We have a 4-person team of full-time employees with the head, Asia and IT, Asia and aerospace. And what we suggest to really accommodate going forward with that Indian engagement and interacting with Indian companies is adding more personnel for Asia and Asian IT, considering that Asia is a yes.
I have a hard time understanding the -1.
It's missing.
Sorry, that's a technical.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so we do plan on adding 3 full-time employees for the Asia and the Asia IT, considering that we are targeting large technology companies.
You're offering to add an employee for aerospace as well?
No, so that's typo as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So by hiring more full-time employees, just to reiterate that, we'll be really facilitating this growth and really taking into consideration your objective of doubling FDI in the next 5 years, in particular with a more greater focus towards Asian FDI and Indian tech companies. And as to what kind of full-time employees you're looking for, a profile can be very generic, but there are some key characteristics that we suggest keeping in mind when looking for new hires. Obviously a university degree in some relevant field that could be applied in this kind of work, some relevant experience in engaging with foreign companies, and some understanding and knowledge with, may not be particularly Indian culture, they don't have to be Indian, but just experience with interacting with people of different cultures and different backgrounds. And obviously some of the basic business knowledge of developing strategies and organizing different and executing those strategies as well.
I'm sorry, Toronto is such an attraction for Indian investors, so why not just fully Indian? Why should we not hire 3 people that have very deep background and knowledge of India?
Yes. So definitely a priority for this action would be hiring people who have the utmost understanding of Indian culture, Asian culture, and the deep nuances within different sub-communities and how the business climate and how the investment climate works overseas. Yeah. And the second part of our strategy is to keep tackling investors' main concerns, in particular the French language barrier. Something that should be emphasized is that this language barrier also comes with language diversity. Not everyone in Quebec speaks only French. Something that you could emphasize is the language diversity in that over half of the people in Quebec and in Montreal are bilingual, and there are a plethora and multitudes of people and populations and communities that are trilingual and speak more than 3 languages, whose first language is not English nor French at all. Something that you could also emphasize by easing investors' concerns with this language barrier is promoting these success stories. Montreal International has been around for some time and obviously has seen some great success stories with bringing forward subsidiaries whose home language is not French. So obviously there are great companies out there, for example, Microsoft and Google and other tech companies out there who have taken that risk, entered Montreal, and accepted that language barrier. For example, Raj up here, he immigrated to Montreal 10 years ago in hopes of a better life here in Canada. However, he only spoke English, so he was a bit worried, how do I find a job? How do I find a job that I like where I can thrive considering the language barriers where most companies require French? And that's where Montreal International comes in by helping foreign companies that are entering Montreal and helping them not only navigate the complex legal documents and the government interactions in French, but also helping them hire local talent and helping the local talent learn French as well.
So finally, as I mentioned before, we need to leverage the synergies. These companies are going to invest in Montreal, but we need to retain them. We need to make Montreal a sustainable environment, not only an AI hub, but a tech hub. A hub where companies share best practices not only within the cluster, but outside of them, but between the clusters. So how first to share information between the clusters? As we said, there's some strong synergies. We have AI and video games that can work together. We have aerospace and defense that is already extremely big in Montreal. We have CAE, we have Air Canada. What does Air Canada train their pilots? Well, they use VR because it saves them a lot of money, and we have very good VR companies in Montreal. We need to make sure that this company interact together. One of the ways that Montreal International could link them together is simply by creating a gala every year with networking events where we will invite these international companies to come and meet. Their CEOs will talk together, and eventually they will realize they have a lot of things in common, and they have, it would be really beneficial for both of them to do business together. Second is creating within cluster. If you want to make sure that a lot of AI companies are going to come, we need to give them benefits. This year, the World AI Organization was created in Montreal. It is a really big step forward, and why not create the MTC, the Montreal Technology Cluster? Every company that would come in Montreal could become a member of this cluster, and finally they could regularly, maybe monthly, every year, meet and exchange ideas, see how they can do business together, and see how they can bring up and what their needs are, and finally communicate them to the governments. Finally, our strategy will not only reinforce the tech cluster, but will make sure that we create a sustainable environment for AI, tech, video games, VFX, but make sure that this strength is not only a strength that is staying alone, but it is going to help all the Montreal community, and it's going to be positive in the future. So finally, in terms of our capabilities, this is a very good strategy, but how do we back it up with numbers? First, looking at our financials. So if we project how much FDI you have in the next 5 years, you already have a very strong growth. And being pretty conservative, we already reached 4.3 billion investment by 2025. Now looking into India. India every year in terms of tech, they invest around $5,000 million. But by 2025, this amount will almost have doubled. We hope to capture by 2025 between 10 and 15% of India's FDIs into tech, which is a really reasonable number. No, in terms of throughout the 5 years, this will mean a 3.7 million, so 3.7 billion investment received, and average number of jobs created per million invested is 2.6 in Montreal, which means 10,000 jobs created in Montreal over this period of time, thanks to our strategy.
So now we're going to leave you with 3 key takeaways of our MPL strategy. So just to review them again, first off, we're going to make a team that will allow us to facilitate the growth that we described. Secondly, we're going to take talk about investors' main concern of the language barrier here, specifically in Montreal. And lastly, we're going to leverage synergies within and between industries. So our overall goal here is to double the FDIs, as we mentioned, was our ultimate goal, and also to attract companies from particularly India to enter the sectors that we previously mentioned. And overall, we're hoping to see more success stories like Raj come to life in the near future. Thank you very much, and we now open the floor for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question about how much is it going to cost us, because you're proposing to hire 3 people, to create a yearly gala, create a Montreal Tech Cluster. Any suggestions of how much we should prepare for in terms of budget?
Of course. So on average, salary in Montreal is around $75,000. These are entry positions, so we could scale it down to 60. If we hire 3 people, it's around $180K a year, which is pretty reasonable given the funding that you're receiving, which is around $15 million a year. So yeah, we don't think that's going to be major cost. But if we want to double investments in the next 5 years, we can have the same number of employees, and there will need to be investment from the Montreal International side.
Can you go back to the slide where you show the projected investments from this one? Yeah. You're proposing, just challenging your assumption on job creation there to be realistic. You're proposing 1.3 billion investment from India in the next 5 years.
So in 2025, we expect to have 1.3 billion. Do you want me to legitimize something?
No, it's just with 2.5 billion in 2018, we got 6,500 jobs, right? And you're saying that with 1.3 billion, we'll have 10,000 jobs. Are you overestimating the number of jobs created?
With 2.5 billion
total investments in 2018.
In 2018,
there's 6,500 jobs created.
Exactly.
You're saying we're gonna invest probably 3 billion here,
yeah.
And you'll create 10,000 jobs just with the India investments.
So if in 2018 you have investment, you have 6,000 jobs and 2.5 million. That's 2.6. That's 2.6 jobs created per each million invested. Okay. If over the course of the 5 years you have 3.7 million invested, you multiply it by 2.6, and that gives you around 10,000 jobs.
Any suggestions in terms of the cities that we should focus our efforts on in India?
I mean, of course, the main cities are coming up are Mumbai, Bangalore, where the big tech companies are. And these are definitely the cities that we're going to be looking for. And we want to make sure that when we hire people, they have knowledge of the cities and probably come from the cities.
Would you see an added benefit to actually opening an office in India? Having people on the premises, having people that are deeply rooted inside the Indian community? Or would you believe that having them in Montreal is the way to go?
We actually considered that upon coming up with the strategy, and so since it was only a 5-year strategy, we thought that the first step would be to kind of test it out over the 5 years here just in Montreal, and then if we do think that there is some success and think that we could continue to expand, then we would definitely consider opening an office or sending more people over to actually work in India after that.
Do you think Montreal has a strong enough hub or ecosystem to attract these types of companies versus San Francisco and other cities that are very tech savvy?
Yeah, so we did take into consideration different cities like Toronto and San Fran, who are also tech hubs for large tech companies. However, something significant that we saw while we were doing our competitor analysis was the cost of living, especially. Cost of living as well as the cost of doing business is much lower in Montreal as compared to Toronto with the high rent prices, and especially as opposed to San Fran with homelessness with a large income. So even though we do see, different cities as, tech hubs and possible competition for these Indian companies, we don't see these as significant competition, as Montreal International can, promote their strong stuff and their strong aspects for the city.
Can you explain again why you suggest to focus on AI, VFX, and video games more than cybersecurity, fintech, and aerospace?
I'll take that one. So let's go back to the city analysis. I'm sorry. Okay, so what I wanted to do when choosing industries, I know this is a little confusing, but I wanted to find a place where Montreal had a competitive advantage. Why we decided to focus on them, obviously San Francisco is very good in terms of technology, AI, VFX, video games, but Montreal was the one making the Game of Thrones graphics. Montreal has Ubisoft, has a very big video games company. Montreal has a lot of very strong AI companies. And of course, these other cities are very strong as well, but Montreal has already something to offer. Already has a competitive advantage because on the top.
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Can I finish my sentence?
Yeah, sorry.
On the top of being very strong in this domain, they have the competitive advantage of being cheap, being diverse culturally, having a lot of universities, and they're going to leverage that. So that's what we decided to go into those three industries.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, just to mention that we are on the sound for
Thank you very much. Well done, thanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
And I didn't hear the French. J'ai pas entendu l'accent français, moi, trop ça allait.
Thank you.
J'ai fait mon mieux.
Now